The second key word is holism. And holism implies that things are whole, that things that appear to be unconnected are in fact connected. Okay, so the other thing that's very important is to ask the question, is to try to piece together a puzzle, asking the question, is this symptom here in the body related to this symptom here in the body? Okay, or should these be treated separately? And in modern medicine, there is a lot of diagnostic categories that are individual to specific parts of the body. So if you have inflammation in the eye, it's called conjunctivitis. If you have inflammation in the ear, it's called otitis. If you have inflammation in the joint, it's called arthritis. If you have inflammation in the liver, it's called hepatitis. Okay? So itis means inflammation. And the various medical diagnostic categories, all they really say is that this certain part of the body is inflamed. So it's not much of a diagnostic category as far as I can tell. All it really says is that there's inflammation in this part of the body. Why? May not be looked for or understood. And could these different things be related? That's not really considered very seriously. I say that because often in modern medical practice, there is the habit of prescribing individual drugs for individual symptoms or individual parts of the body without trying to see it as one pattern. And trying to see things as a pattern where these things are related, so that if you affect one, the other is going to change. So that's not part of the modern medical approach. It's not how the system is set up these days. Medicine as practiced in other times in human history has been set up differently. What is now alternative used to be for thousands of years mainstream. So Chinese medicine and acupuncture, Indian medicine and homeopathic medicine are particularly good approaches to try to understand larger patterns. Whereas the modern medical approach is not good at that. It's very good at getting you out of acute crisis situations, but it's not good at understanding the whole. It's very powerful at micro-analyzing and understanding in detail one small part, right down to the molecular level. Okay, and that's its strength. But its strength is not to kind of put it all back together. I'm very glad for the training that I received to do with modern medical assessment and therapeutics, because a good way for me to understand individual detailed things in the body as they're occurring at a molecular level. But it's not something that I utilize to actually form an assessment, a holistic assessment. And it's not something that I utilize to create a set of recommendations. Okay, that's not what it seems to be good for. Now, I'll give you an example of a symptom cluster, which occurs frequently. And I'll give you an example of how modern medicine would look at it and how Chinese medicine would look at it. Okay, the symptom cluster would be we'll go down, head down to the feet. Okay, headaches, sometimes on top of the head, or frontal, or in the temples, or behind the eyes. It would also involve photophobia, or a feeling that that things are too bright. So a need to kind of have sometimes sunglasses on or squint because things are too bright. Sometimes a burning sensation in the eyes. Often a dryness in the sinuses, sometimes redishness over the sinus areas. a tendency to have mouth sores, either just outside or just inside, just little cuts or little sore, like not quite cold sores, but that kind of thing. Uh, a, um, a breathing pattern which is stuck right here, so that if a deeper breath is attempted, it hurts right along the rib cage, just beneath the rib cage. A yellow urine, which also has a strong odor. Stools, which tend to be not well formed and tend to have a foul odor or a strong, pungent or sharp odor. And painful areas in the body, either being painful or at least stiff, either painful without even being touched or painful only to the touch. And these areas would go along the outside of the legs, would go up the back, go up the neck and shoulders, come above the head, and come behind the eyes, around so. And also a line of tension that starts on the hand, moves up this way, also goes behind neck and shoulders, and comes up around the head. So all of this is one pattern in Chinese medicine, okay? Whereas all of these things would be seen as, you know, a dozen or so different, perhaps conditions or signs to be treated individually in modern medicine. This is a difference. So it's not just substituting herbs for drugs that makes this holistic. It's to begin with how to look at things. Okay. What's more, this pattern that I've described, you know, a person with such a pattern would also have an intolerance to heat, to stuffy rooms that are just too hot, not enough fresh air. Would have an intolerance to loud noises. Would do well with a certain kind of diet. Would not do well with another kind of diet. All of this is known and is understood as part of a particular pattern which occurs commonly enough. So here's our two options: fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, or this pattern as seen by Chinese medicine. If we begin with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue as our starting point, then we don't have all that's available in Chinese medicine to be used just in a proper way. What we have is the use of some herbs for maybe insomnia, sometimes for muscle pain, sometimes for the gut if it's acting up. You know, God knows what to do about the eyes, or tension spots, which in fact are creating these headaches and other things as well. How to change breathing, how to get below here and break away from that kind of physiology. So none of that is part of what can come out of starting off with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. It's just not part of it. What you'll get from that is muscle relaxant drugs or herbs, sedative drugs or herbs. Those are the two main kinds of things that will tend to be utilized. And compared to what's available here, it's almost nothing. So little wonder to me that starting off that way, the results are not nearly what they can be when one starts off right over here. So in starting off and understanding this larger pattern, this is what becomes available. The knowledge of what kind of diet in practice is beneficial. So not just theoretical, but in practice, what's been found for thousands of years, that when people have this kind of physiologic pattern, what kind of diet helps them get through it. Which herbals have been known for thousands of years to shift this pattern along, change it back into neutral pattern. And so these things have been known for thousands of years and practiced successfully. The other thing that becomes available is body work, acupuncture, shiatsu, reflexology, massage. So body work tends not to be a big part of what one might get if they start off here. They may get some, but compared to the clinical art that is acupuncture, for instance, it's much less in comparison.